let's move on to the next topic, which is over page 9. Drugs. Yes. All right. What the hell? Wow. Drugs. Why is this under the states of consciousness section in psychology for drugs?
Because certain drugs can bring you into certain states, like before you.
Yeah, they can alter your states of consciousness. All right. So the drugs we're talking about are what are called psychoactive drugs. Psycho meaning mind, of course. These are ones that can alter your mood, and they can also and do alter your perception. So let me hold off a second and explain these two, because it's really easy to just glance over these and miss what they mean. So what the heck is a mood? Wait, no, I got a better question. Here's 3 words that people use interchangeably but are not the same thing. Emotion, feeling, and mood.
Wait, that's the same.
You're like, those are the same word. They are not. They are all 3 different things. And I mean that technically, they are. I realize people use them interchangeably, but they're not actually the same thing. So, does anybody want to take a stab at maybe telling me the difference between one of these or 2 of these? I would assume probably most of you can't accurately tell me what all 3 of these are. Particularly this one. That's the one that loses most people. But can anybody tell me the difference between these words? Are they all exactly the same thing? Evidently, yeah, there's nuances. What you got?
So maybe feeling is like what you, I don't want to say feel because it's in the word, but like especially like how you
Experience?
are or what you're experiencing, and then your mood would be like how you react to.
Good guesses. Okay, so the feeling you're on, the mood is where you're diverging a little bit. So let's focus on the feeling first. So feeling, yeah, that's your sensation experience here. All right. So when I say I'm happy, happy might be the emotion, which I'll get to in a second. But that feeling of feeling good and energetic and alert, that is actually the neurochemicals that are acting, dopamine and whatnot. So this is what I get from the neurochemicals. All right, this is neurochemically induced neurotransmitters. All right, so the feeling is my actual experience. Like, do I feel excited, alerted, joyful? Right? Joyful is actually kind of an emotion, but how do I actually feel inside of me in that, again, is it positive? Like, am I alert now? Do I enjoy it? Or would it be something that would be more negative? Anger is a feeling. It's actually an emotion, but the feeling you have, that intense, like, oh, I want to do something about it, and then my body picks up its, ramps up its sympathetic nervous system, my heart rate goes up because I want to hit you or whatever, or say something mean, and my blood's boiling. That's the actual feeling. So the actual sensation of you wanting to share your joy with everybody, or really want to hit that person, or want to cry, right? Those are the actual feelings. That's your experience itself, all right? That's how it actually impacts you. And those are activated by, more or less, neurotransmitters, all right? So when that's activated and your brain releases dopamine or whatever it's releasing, that is the feeling you're getting. It's coming from the neurotransmitter, all right? So that's a feeling. So what's going to separate that from a mood or an emotion?
Okay, this is probably wrong, but like, is mood kind of like the outer surface, like your behavior? Like, you feel pretty mad, but you're not going to hit someone.
Okay, so this is the internal. That's a good explanation. I would say not correct though. So here's where I'll go with it. I like this though because you're talking about how this could affect my behavior. That's the perception portion. So we'll get to. But mood is the best way I could describe it is a prolonged set of feelings. So if I'm experiencing this sadness, this really dull feeling of feeling really low energy, pessimistic about what could happen, really sorry for what I did or the person or whoever, and that continues for a long time, many, many minutes or hours or days, that's a mood. So it's basically like a feeling played out over a long period of time. So extended feeling over time, right? And that's what you mean when someone says, oh, they're in a bad mood. Does that mean they're angry for a minute and then they're not? No, it means they're angry for a while. It's like avoid them because they are currently in a bad mood. So they're stuck in this feeling of whatever negative it is. Or, hey, they're in a good mood. They're like all cheery and they're doing great things and they're having a great time. Like that's what we mean by mood. So it's affecting them over a period of time. Like I said, it could be days or months. It could be, just several minutes, but you're talking an extended feeling over time. All right, that's the difference. So this is the immediate sensation, the experience you get from the neurotransmitters, and this is basically if those feelings continue for a long time. All right, and before I get to the perception thing, you're onto it, because if this continues, that's going to affect how I see the world, interact with it, and that might change my behavior, right? That's why you ask for a favor when someone's in a good mood, and you do not ask for a favor when someone's in a bad mood, all right? Because their perception's altered, all right? Or their mood's altered at least, and that could affect their perception. All right, so the emotion thing. No one's gonna get this one, so I'll just tell you. Emotion is actually your brain's automatic response to a stimulation, okay? So emotions you don't think about. You can't control them, all right? Most of you know this by now. Emotions you pretty much can't control. You might be able to ignore them or hold back on acting on them, but that feeling you get, you can't change. So this is, an emotion is your body's response, automatic response. Response to a stimuli or stimulant. No, we'll say stimulant. Stimulant's actually a drug. To a stimuli. There she is. Okay, so the emotion is it's old. It's from the limbic system, so it predates our cortical regions, right? So emotions go way back further than humans. And the reason why these exist is they have helped species survive before. Obviously, the ones that had these emotions built in lived, and the ones that did not. So emotions are instantaneous, and you cannot control them, all right? So example, I'm walking along, I'm hiking, and I'm having a great time talking with whoever I'm with, whatever, or I'm by myself, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I look up, and there's a bear right there on the trail, 10 feet away from me. What is my body instantly going to do before I can even think, look, there's a bear, it might eat me, I should probably try to avoid this? What's my body do?
You run?
Well, you don't, that's the action. So you might be compelled to run, but like, what happens inside of you? What do you feel? Fear, yes. You might get that shot of adrenaline because you have to fight or flight at this point, right? But that happens automatically. So this is like a really primitive way that your body analyzes the situation. So in this case, the stimulation is, I see a bear. Your body goes, oh, we're gonna die, right? And that's why you get the fear. You tense up and you get that shot of adrenaline to where you either run or you have to fight. And also, too, I actually forgot about this. Anytime you see something threatening that you're not expecting, you will actually freeze initially. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be like, you can't see me. I'm just going to stay like this. But you initially stop. All right, that's actually an evolutionary reaction. I should talk this in evolutionary psychology, where your body automatically stops so you don't trigger the prey reaction in a predator. Because if you run from any predator, they're just going to chase you. Because that's what their reaction is to you running away, is, oh, sweet, that thing, I got to go chase it, right? That's why cats, unless they're like lazy or whatever, if you like tie something on a string and throw it in front of them and you have it run in front of them, they always want to chase it, right? That's the chase instinct. So you've got it pre-programmed in you from a long time ago to when you see a threatening predator, you freeze, so you can assess it, because if you just took off and ran, it would just chase you no matter what. But anyways, I can't control the fact that I'm instantly feeling fear, and it's instantaneous. So your emotion is your body's automatic response to stimulation. All right, so you see it, your brain goes, threat, oh God, and then it gives you the feeling. It initiates the neurotransmitters or the adrenaline, whatever it might be, whatever scenario you're in, and that's how those two are connected. So they're very quick, but it's important to know this is the automatic response you have that you have no control over, and this is the experience you get when that emotion has activated. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So can I control if I feel happy or not? No, for the most part I can't. There's things you can do to try to promote it, but I mean, I can't make myself feel happy when I look at this pen. I can't be like it just doesn't work. Right, I'm trying so hard. Because it's automatic, it's pre-programmed. So there are certain things that your brain has pre-programmed into it that when it sees it, it automatically responds to those. In the case of happiness, those are generally things that have promoted us living. So like, oh, a loved one that I know, someone familiar, and I get that happiness or that feeling of love. It's automatic, all right? Or if you see something threatening, you pretty much automatically feel fear. If you see something that is, something frustrates you, it's in your way of your goal, that's what promotes the anger to come out. So these are all really, really old, instant assessments that your body reacts to. Because again, those are, historically speaking, pre-humans or even early humans. These are things that if you had to think about each time, that would get you killed. Because it's like, oh, there's a bear. Huh, what should I do about this? Let me think here. You're just going to get killed. So you have the automatic response of, whoop, and then your body's ready to go, whether it's fight or run or whatever it might be. Okay? So that's how emotions work. So emotion, see something or hear something, your body's automatic response to it, then it initiates the neurotransmitters or hormones to get the feeling, that experience you get. And if these things are continuing over time, that would be your mood. You guys got that? Sweet. I'm glad I told it to you early because I'll definitely have to explain this to you again when we get to emotion in Unit 7. Now that you know that, how might a drug affect my mood? Because psychoactive drugs are mood altering. So now that you know this, obviously we can cut this part out because the emotion's not linked to the drug at this point. But these two are. So when I take a drug, whatever it might be, how does it alter my mood?
It could put you in an extended mood of euphoria, a lot of happiness.
There we go. Okay, so all these drugs give me a feeling, right? They all either mimic neurotransmitters, which give me the feeling, or they, release extra neurotransmitters, whatever they might do, or block certain ones, whatever they're doing. They give me a feeling, right? And that's having to do with my neurotransmitters or mimicking them. Does that part make sense? Mm-hmm. That's the feeling you get, the rush you get, or the relaxation or euphoria you get. That's the feeling, all right? All these drugs, even the quick ones, it lasts for a while, right? So that's the part that's altering your mood. So something like cocaine is quicker, hour or two, but still that's a long time to feel one way. So that would be definitely considered a mood. It might do 6 to 8 hours, it might do a whole day, whatever it might be. That's why we call it a mood altering substance, because I get the feeling from the neurotransmitters or ones that mimic them, and then that's going to maintain itself for a long period of time, whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever it might be. All right? So you with me on that? I haven't lost you? Okay, good. Most of you are on the map still. Okay, alters my mood. How might that cause my perception to change then?
Since you're in an altered state of euphoria, let's say your dog dies, something, you're just not going to react to it as okay, so your dog dies, right? You're just
okay.
Going, oh wow, but because you're so happy, and
yes.
Compared to not being on the drug and your dog dies, you're oh no.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So what these do, and they all do it in different ways, but your perception is basically how you're interpreting the information. So your dog dying is bad for most people, unless for some reason. No, it's gonna be sad no matter what. As long as you cared about the dog, if it died, you're sad. I was gonna say maybe it's suffering and you're putting it down, but that's always sad too. So, assuming you care about your dog, if your dog dies, it's going to make you sad. right? Some of us will be sad for longer than others, but there's no way you can have this dog you love and then it dies and you're just like, oh, whatever. Like, you just can't do it, all right? So, a drug may be able to alter your perception, all right? So, the situation is dog dies. Again, we're assuming you care about the dog. Dog dies, right? That's the information. That's the stimulus. You see it or hear it or whatever it might be, okay? So this is the information. It's coming into your brain, all right? Your perception is how you interpret that information, all right? So most of us, if you're not under the influence of a psychoactive drug, what's going to happen is you interpret that information as a negative, obviously, and you're going to feel sad, right? And your perception is, this is a negative development, and I feel sad, right? When my last dog died, I actually felt angry because the vet totally screwed up and killed him. So I felt sad too, but my first one was just this anger. But anyways, you're going to feel negative. Anger is usually a response to something negative anyway. So that's how you're perceiving it. So that's the information. Dog died. My response is going to be, I'm interpreting that as a negative thing that makes me sad or angry. You with me on that? Okay. So like you mentioned, if I'm on some drug that makes me feel euphoric, like say some of the opiates, the painkillers people get addicted to, heroin, for example. If I'm on heroin, which I obviously don't suggest you do, but people do, and that's what we're talking about, that's going to affect my perception. So is the information still going to be the same?
Yes.
No, the information's the same, right? Did my dog die?
Yes.
Yes, and I saw it or heard it or whatever it might be. Info's the exact same. All right? This is just like sensation. I'm seeing the exact same thing regardless of being on a drug or not. All right? But the way I process that information is going to be different. Okay? So if I'm super, into my, like what do we say they're doing? Heroin, whatever opiate. If they're really high on that substance, whatever it might be, are they going to, and they're very euphoric, are they going to be as sad about that information at that time? No, they won't be as sad, right? Whatever it might be, even if it is still negative, it's going to be less negative. Less negative, right? Because I'm in a euphoric mood. I feel this way, so even bad information doesn't hit as hard, all right? Now, is it going to be the same when that heroin or whatever wears off and I'm back to normal? No, then I'm going to perceive it differently. Then I'm going to probably hop right back up into here, okay? So that's how your perception is altered. It's how you interpret the information. So that's the most simple example we can give, is that when it would normally make you very sad, because it's got you stuck with this particular feeling for a long time, thus making it a mood, you respond differently and perceive that information differently. All right, so does that make a little bit of sense? All right, and this is partly why people get addicted to certain drugs, which we'll get into, like alcohol, for example. Because if you're experiencing a very negative emotion, you're stressed or upset or sad or whatever, alcohol can be an excellent numbing device in that it changes your perception to the point that you know that it's bad, but you just don't care that it's bad. So you don't have that negative feeling associated with it, which is why so many people get addicted to alcohol. Specifically, they have difficult lives, which is why during the Soviet Union in Russia, the amount of vodka they consumed was just an absurd amount. And it wasn't just because they liked vodka, it's because it would numb them to the difficulties of their life, which was terrible in the communist Soviet Union. All right, so that's how I perceive the information as far as being good or bad, but there's another type of perception I could be talking about. So if I'm talking about a substance that causes hallucinations, do we know what hallucinations are?
Yeah.
What's hallucination?
When you see something that's not there.
See something that's not there.
Weird, right?
Yep, see or hear or feel. I'm sensing, it could be touch, taste, feel, sight, or hearing, any of the five, that isn't actually there. That's a hallucination. So you hear a voice, but there was no actual voice, right? And you'd only know that because other people would be like, yeah, there was no voice, dude. And you're like, whoa, did you guys not hear? Or you're like, oh my gosh, look at that, giant spider, but there's not a spider there. You're all like, there's no spider there. And I'm seeing it, that would be an example of a hallucination. So let's say I do take a drug that causes hallucinations, like LSD or whatever mushroom, and I take it, Am I getting different sensory information than other people? Ooh, see, I'm confusing some of you here. Remember, hold on, pause. The way it works is the sensation, or I should say the sensory information, it's gonna be the same, all right? So let's say I hallucinate and see a spider, okay? And you guys do not. Is there different light hitting my eye that's showing me a spider? No, we're all getting the same sensory information, all right? So the input is the same for somebody on drugs or off drugs. So where's the difference then, if the sensory information is the same?
It's how your brain interprets.
Yeah, exactly. So my brain is, because of its own perception, creating the illusion of a spider being there for whatever reason. All right. So in the case of a hallucinogen, I gotta put that up there, and we'll get there. I'll talk more about it. But in the case of a hallucinogen, even though we're seeing the same sensory information, the same light or sounds or whatever, I'm somehow interpreting it differently than a person who is not on this substance. So I could see a spider that's not there, hear a voice that is not there. I could even, this isn't a hallucination, this is called a delusion, when you misread people's intentions. That's an example of a delusion. For example, if somebody bumps into me, or no, how about this? If I'm walking to a different class and I notice somebody's following me, do I automatically assume that they're following me because they're on a mission to kill me? No, you don't, right? Normally you'd be like, oh yeah, we both have a class over here, or whatever it might be. Or you need to ask me a question, I don't know, whatever it might be. Or we just happened to both be walking that direction. A delusion is, you take that information, someone's following me, same input, but you perceive it differently. One is, oh, they probably have the same class as me, or they happen to be going this way. Another is, they're on a mission to kill me. They were sent by the government, and the government's been after me for a while. They've been tapping into my phone. They know they think I'm doing something wrong, and they're trying to kill me, right? That's a delusion, all right? They perceived it incorrectly in this case, most likely, right? So that's kind of the difference between the two. So that's how these can alter your perception. I can get the same information, somebody following me, the light over there off the wall, but I actually interpret it differently. I see a spider, my brain creates the image of a spider that's not there, that you all tell me is not there. Or, the guy that just happened to be following me to class, who maybe has a class next to me, which is a good explanation for it. I interpret it as, oh, he's out to kill me, he's sent by the government, they're trying to assassinate me, or whatever. All right? That's how perceptions can be altered. Okay? And it makes sense too, by the way, because when I'm dreaming, do you hear things in dreams? Like, I'm talking in the dream, by the way. I'm not talking like when I'm sleeping, do I hear the sounds outside? In my dream only, do I, in my dreams, talk to people and hear things? Yes. Do I move around?
Yes.
Do I feel things that touch me?
Yes.
Yes. Do I see things?
Yes.
Yes, you do. But am I actually getting that information from the outside at all?
No.
No, my brain's just making it up, all right? So you can perceive things even without the sensory input, right? That's why you can close your eyes and imagine something, all right? That's you creating the perception. So that's where it's difficult. It's like, all right, if I'm on whatever drug it might be, it could affect how I interpret the information, like how much it affects me, what I think is negative, if I care or not. I could totally see or hear something that's not even there, right, in the case of hallucination, or I could misinterpret what somebody's doing, which is a delusion, thinking they're out to get me or kill me or spy on me or whatever, even though they're just walking down the street. All right, so you with me on how these drugs can alter your moods and perceptions? Sweet, and you can kind of understand how they're linked too. All right, I didn't want to glance over that because I want you guys to understand what's going on there. Okay, so anybody lost? Any questions I can answer so far? All right. So why would people take drugs before we get into what they are? Why?
They're looking at life and they're trying to find an escape method.
Okay, so they're feeling a lot of negative emotion and they do not want to feel all that negative emotion because that feels terrible, right? Whether you're sad or angry or stressed, whatever it might be, worried, it's pretty the same thing as stress, but this can help alleviate that, get rid of it. Does it fix the cause? No, I'm always going to have that source, but as long as I'm taking the substance, whatever it is, I don't care about it or I feel good and it doesn't bother me. That's an excellent reason. What might be another reason?
Like social peer pressure. Like if your friends are gonna do it, then you're gonna want to do it.
That's true. That's more a social psychology thing. We'll definitely get there. But I'm just talking like, if I could take other people out somehow in the peer pressure, like why would somebody want to take a drug just for themselves?
They're experiencing pain.
Yeah, that has to do with what she was saying. So negative emotion or physical pain too. Yeah, they're trying to get rid of some uncomfortable feeling, whether it's psychological or it's actual like, you know, physical sensory neuron type deal.
Like people in their family or in like their relatives like do drugs or like that kind of thing, and they like the way it makes them feel, then like genetically it can pass on.
Okay, there we go. I might be more predisposed to really enjoy a certain drug. Okay, cool, yeah. Depending on my own brain anatomy and the amount of receptors I have for certain neurotransmitters, yeah, I could be more likely to be addicted because maybe my genes predispose me to have a whole bunch of dopamine receptors, so I super enjoy cocaine or something like that more than somebody else would, or alcohol or whatever it might be. Absolutely. So I'm either chasing a good feeling or escaping a bad feeling. Can we agree that's pretty much what they're doing? All right, cool. So they want some new, novel, fun, exciting, positive experience, or they're trying to escape some sort of sensory pain or psychological pain. And that's what people generally do this for. Okay, so that's why. So we got the why, of course. Why? Chasing positive feelings, right? Like maybe they don't have a bad life, but it just feels really good to be on this drug, whatever it might be. Or they're looking to escape or numb negative feelings. And then I'd add a third one. But it's kind of related to this. They're addicted, which we'll get into here. Well, actually right now. So, drugs, they can become addictive, which means you at least feel like you need them. How could that happen? How could I go from not needing this pill or drug or whatever it might be to all of a sudden not being able to function normally without it? You had your hand up, then you took it down.
Okay, so I guess your body kind of gets used to the drug, so your body feels like it needs it, so when you're not on it, you feel terrible, and that causes you to want more of it?
You are generally, in a vague way, you are dead on, but I think we know a little bit more about how neurons work. Could you tell me technically? If you can't, that's fine. That's a wonderful answer, because you're right. You get used to it, and your body needs to have that sensation or that drug to feel normal or continue not feeling bad. That's true. But do we know why on a neurological level?
Because of like the transmitters or whatever. So you're receiving a lot of it, and when your body doesn't have it, it's like, okay, well, because you're receiving so much, it doesn't produce as much as it used to for like
There we go.
serotonin.
That's the biggest reason, yeah. So whether it's serotonin or it's dopamine or whatever it might be, even for sleep aids, like we talked about yesterday for melatonin, if your body thinks you have an excess of the stuff, and obviously if you're using drugs, you're getting a ton of whatever it might be, your body's like, oh, we're good, we don't need to make you more of this. So it stops making endorphins, or it stops making dopamine, or it stops making melatonin, at least for a while. So what happens when that drug goes away?
Oh.
Okay, yeah, but like, what does that mean?
You have like a lack of those chemicals.
Yes, you completely lack them altogether. So I go from being super positive, like if I'm addicted to cocaine, feeling great, and then since my body's had so much cocaine over a period of time, I don't have any dopamine or norepinephrine like in stock to use. So I go to feeling super low energy, irritable, because I just don't even have my own neurotransmitters to make myself feel normal anymore. It would take a long time for my body to recover, build them back up, and get them back into use. Like you're thinking certainly a couple weeks at least for most to get back to normal. So it's a terrible 2 weeks. And if I'm feeling awful, I realize it's not the drug doing it, but I'm feeling absolutely awful. What's going on here? What's being affected? I'm feeling absolutely awful, right? For 5 days, for 10 days, for 2 weeks, whatever it is. What am I in at that point? If I'm feeling awful, I'm definitely in a bad mood at the very least. All right. If I'm feeling terrible, I'm in a bad mood for like 2 weeks. Even if I want to stop doing the drug, what am I super likely to do at some point?
Go
Yeah, go find the drug again to just not feel crappy, right? That's what the withdrawals are. So it can be incredibly intense. And some drugs, like I know, for example, if you're depending on the level of dependency you have with alcohol, you actually can't cold turkey it. What I mean by cold turkey is just stop it clean. it'll actually end up killing you, the way your body responds to it. So depending on how deep you are into alcoholism, they may have to wean you off of it rather than just stop it. But most drugs you can cold turkey. It just really, really sucks for a while. All right, and we'll get into later, we'll actually get into today too, about why most people just stopping the drug doesn't help them. It's actually partly an environmental thing. Okay, so we understand how you get addicted now. So addiction, that's actually a physiological or neurological dependency. So I've gotten to the point, depending on the drug, it can be from one exposure to it or to multiple. My body is no longer producing my normal amounts of neurotransmitters that I need to feel normal, to feel stable or happy or whatever it might be. All right, and I need that drug to get out of that negative mood or to feel happy again or whatever it might be. All right, that's the addiction. My actual neurons don't function normally unless, or at least feel normally, unless I have that drug into my, interact with my neuron receptors in the dendrites. All right, that's the addiction. So what's the withdrawal then? Because this is what people fear when I stop taking the drug. Why do I feel so crappy when I stop taking the drug? Because I have to endure this to get my body to adapt and get back to normal.
Because your body kind of gets like so dependent on it.
Why is it dependent though, neurologically? Why is you're right, it is a dependency. Why is my body neurologically dependent?
Because the drug was either mimicking or making you release more whatever neurotransmitters you had, and your brain took that as you have an excess, so it stopped producing them.
Exactly, right, that's what I said earlier. So your brain has stopped producing whatever neurotransmitter you need to feel happy or not sad or whatever it might be. Or if like it's endorphins, you're actually gonna feel pain all the time. It's not just like, oh, I feel bad, I feel like I have low energy. No, if you're addicted to painkillers, like you just hurt because you don't have any endorphins to stop the mild amounts of pain you're experiencing. You just hurt. You like feel bad, you have low energy, all of that. Your body will panic. It'll become overactive because it thinks you're in a life-threatening situation. So you'll have a really high heart rate. You'll sweat a lot. It's just a terrible, terrible experience. So the withdrawal is the body's neurological readjustment period. And it is almost always, at the very least, uncomfortable to unbearable. Depending on several factors. It depends on how addicted you were, which substance it is, how many receptors your body has. So, somebody who has less isn't going to be as sensitive to it as somebody who is. So there's lots of genetic factors involved. There's the actual substance itself. There's your body size too. That could be a factor. Most drugs, if you're heavier, bigger, taller, however you want to phrase it, you weigh more, you have more body mass, you generally need more of that drug to experience the sensation. So for example, an average woman and an average male go to a bar and they drink the same amount. The woman on average will get drunk faster because she has less body mass than the male who's usually bigger, right? But if the male was shorter or smaller and the girl was bigger, it would usually be the reverse case, generally speaking. But again, you can have certain genetic predispositions to be inebriated faster than others. But generally speaking, body weight is a big part to do it. Okay, so for the actual AP tests, you guys need to understand that what makes a drug psychoactive, like what that means, right, alters your mood and alters how you perceive the information. So I can care about something more or less, or I can see or hear things that aren't there, or I can misinterpret information like people's desires, delusions. And also, they want you to understand what addiction is technically, not just like, addiction is I need it. It's like, why do you need it? And then why do withdrawal periods, well, first of all, what are they and why do they suck so much? All right, so if you have an idea of that, you'll be pretty well off for answering any questions about that. So we good on psychoactive drugs, addiction, and withdrawal? We understand what they are and how they work? Generically or generally? Okay, cool. So we'll do, what are we at here so far? Class is a little earlier today, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, snap, it ends like 20 minutes, doesn't it? No, am I thinking about that wrong?
No,
Yeah. No, I'm not. It ends at like 11:20, huh?
Yes, sir.
I talked a lot. Okay. Take a break. Drugs. We're going to get into now the different categories of drugs. So this kind of confuses some students. These are the 3 categories. All right, so these 3, underneath them, the drugs that and the other categories, the subcategories underneath them, they all have common characteristics. All right, so again, they're all going to be psychoactive to some degree, which again means they change your mood and perception. I think all of the ones we talk about are at least to some degree addictive, and they don't all have withdrawal symptoms that I'm aware of, but they pretty much all at least have the capacity to be addictive in some way, whether it's neurologically, like I can't produce the stuff anymore, so I need the drug, or psychologically, or you feel like you need it in order to be feel calm or whatever. Here's a quick example of what I mean. As far as I know, technically, the active agent in cannabis or weed, marijuana, which is THC, I've heard that it's not neurologically addictive in that you can't function without it because it blocks certain neurotransmitters or whatever. But people do have psychological dependency or addiction to it in that they feel like they need it to function normally, even though their brains might not be operating differently neurologically. All right, so they'd be like, oh, if I don't have this, I get super anxious because I don't have it. That would be a psychological dependence, not a neurological dependence. All right, so feeling like you need it to operate normally as opposed to, oh, my brain neurochemicals actually can't function without it. All right, so they're all psychoactive. So here's the 3 categories. You have, I don't think this is in order, but depressants. And no, they don't make you feel depressed. And depressed doesn't mean sad, by the way. It usually means hopeless and lethargic. And pessimistic. So depressants, I have my 3rd category. I should put a square on it. My 2nd category, rather, is stimulants. And my 3rd category, I just can't count. My 3rd category is hallucinogens. All right, and there's 1 or 2 hybrids that are kind of both, have qualities of both. But there's a whole bunch of drugs that could go under these categories, and the reason why we lump them together is they have similar impacts. Now, it's going to be different, obviously, because, for example, depressants. No, I'm not going to start with that because that one might be confusing. Let's start with stimulants. Caffeine is a stimulant, for example, and so is nicotine. While they both do essentially the same thing characteristically, it's going to feel different for the user. Like one is actually more addictive than the other. The actual sensation, the feeling, the experience you get from them is going to be slightly different. They do kind of the same they perform kind of the same function, which is why they're under this category. All right, so I'm going to erase this for a second. Things that you would put under the category of depressant. When they say depress, again, that doesn't mean make you feel sad. They depress or slow down your neural system. So all of the interactions between your neurons, how fast you think, how many firing of neurons there are, it's a lower amount. All right, so these slow down or depress neural functioning. So would you say, in general, if I'm using a depressant, I feel excited or relaxed? Relaxed. A few of you said excited. Why would I feel relaxed, generally speaking, on a depressant?
It's slowing down the neural activity.
Exactly. So if I feel super anxious, I'm stressed, I'm stimulated, I'm aroused. Not in like a good way either. Like I think that there's a threat, so my heart rate's up, my breathing's up, my body's tense and ready to go. All right? That is the opposite of what these do. These reverse it. So I don't know if it helps. Think of parasympathetic nervous system. I don't know. It slows you down. So many medications that treat anxiety for those people that are always tense and worried and stressed out, this can help them because they feel relaxed. It literally tells their neurons to ease up, essentially. They're less active, they're less intense, your heart rate will decrease, your breathing will decrease, your blood pressure will decrease, you'll breathe slower, and you'll just basically feel relaxed, essentially. So, they all kind of do this in some way or another, all right? In different ways to different degrees. But one common thing, and which is why we put them under this category, is they basically slow down your neural activity and functioning. All right, so these will generally make you feel relaxed. All right, if you OD on these, it's usually because you got so relaxed that your body stopped working, like your heart didn't pump enough to keep you alive, or you weren't getting enough blood, so you weren't getting enough blood to your brain, which caused you to pass out, and then you passed out in a dangerous spot, or you passed out and it was freezing, and so you froze to death out at night because you just passed out there, or you passed out and then threw up, but you were passed out, so when you threw up, it stayed there, blocked your lungs, and you choked yourself to death without knowing it. That's the kind of way you generally die here. All right, stimulants. Based on the name, what do you think these ones do?
They speed up your neural activity.
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact opposite. They speed up neural activity. Now they could actually speed it up, like make them fire more, or they could make it easier for them to fire. That's actually, as far as I know, that's technically what caffeine does. You'd be like, oh, I need energy, let me drink some caffeine. That actually doesn't give you more energy, it just makes it easier for your body to use the energy you have. But nonetheless, it still feels the same, like you have more energy. All right, so they speed up neural activity. All right, and then hallucinogens. I kind of described what these did. What do these bad boys do you think, if I took a hallucinogen or used a substance with hallucinogenic properties?
It makes you hallucinate.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Like you perceive things that aren't there. You see things.
It alters your perception, right? In this case, you're seeing or hearing things, perceiving things that aren't actually there for the most part. All right, so these are the big perception alterers. Perception altering. They all do alter your perception to a degree, but these ones will actually cause you to see things or hear things that might not be there, or feel that people are doing or thinking things that they're not doing or actually thinking. All right, perception altering. You can see, hear, feel, etc. things or thoughts that are not real. So these are the big perception altering ones. I really wish I knew exactly what time we got out of here. Let me look real quick. So I don't want to be in the middle of something and just go, which you did yesterday?
Yes, sir.
No, but it's a late start, but it's around. It's like a one lunch.
But isn't
Oh yeah, it's always one lunch. It'll be the same. So it's 21. I forgot Wednesdays are always one.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got 5 minutes. So I can at least start talking about one of these.
Stimulants.
Yeah, let's do stimulants because I think that one's the quickest one. So, depressants, the reason why I'm going to finish this one tomorrow is there's actually, this is what confuses people, there's subcategories of depressants, and that really screws people up. So this is what I want you to know. Depressants slow you down. Stimulants speed you up neurologically. Hallucinogens, you are much more likely to see, feel, or think things that aren't actually there. It alters your perception the most. All right. Okay, but they all do alter your perception to some degree. That one's just things that aren't there will be there to you, right? Okay, stimulants. Examples. You've got cocaine. You've got caffeine. You've got nicotine. You've got all of the various types of amphetamines. And did I give you another one? Did I put ecstasy on there?
Yeah. It's a hybrid.
Ecstasy's a hybrid, yeah. So I'm gonna come back to that. Yeah, those are the main ones that you need to know. So these are all highly addicting because generally people feel, depending on the substance and situation, they feel better, but they feel almost superhuman in some cases, especially with cocaine. So cocaine, for example, it sends you a flood of dopamine, norepinephrine, and then of course mimics those as well. in it, so you feel extremely alert and energetic, and you think incredibly fast too. And why am I thinking faster, by the way, with this, and thinking slower with this?
Because your neural activity is excited and stimulants.
Exactly. They're firing more frequently and faster, which usually means I can think faster. A good way to know if somebody's on a stimulant, even coffee, like caffeine is in the coffee, they'll talk faster, like literally talk faster. So like if this is my normal speaking speed, let's say I was on any one of these, which I wouldn't be, obviously, but let's say I might go from talking like this to be talking like this, and I talk like this, and I use these moments right here, and this is a depressant that slows you down, but this one speeds you up actually, and the hallucinogens actually cause different, you see something that's not there, which is kind of cool, because it could be a spider on the wall, but it's not actually there, but I need the same light that you guys are. That might be an example of one. That was really hard to do, by the way. That's an example of one. All right, so that was a little extreme, but that's the kind of thing that you'll see. They'll also get more extroverted usually. All right, extroversion, how much you enjoy seeing other people and having their attention, that's a positive emotion. So that they're usually much more extroverted when they're on these. Now, depressants can do that too because you're less anxious. Because a lot of times some people don't go out and talk and get attention because they're stressed and they get the anxiety. So it's actually a different effect. But these can make you more likely to be extroverted because you just feel so good. You're so positive. Like, oh yeah, it's a great day. How are you doing? Oh, yeah. And like that's the kind of stuff, the effect it might have on you. All right. So these amphetamines, there's all kinds of different ones. There's illegal ones, there's legal ones, but regardless, they all have the same function. These ones will make you, along with this, will make you feel alert, happy, energetic, and then these can too. But these guys have probably, except for maybe the opiates, which is a depressant, have the worst withdrawals. Because if I don't have them, I'm like incapable of, or at least less able to, have positive emotion. All right, so when these wear off, whatever it might be, I got a frog in my throat, man. Whenever they wear off, what I'm left with often is irritability. Yeah, I would feel lethargic perhaps, or at least tired. Lethargic means like, oh, I don't want to get up. And not just I don't want to get up, it actually feels like my arms are heavier. So I don't even want to go do that right now. Like that's when you imagine like somebody, you're like, hey, can you do this? And they're just like, and they get up, they're like, and they just don't want to do it. Like that's like lethargic, basically. And they'll make you more predisposed because they're irritable. They're more predisposed to be angry, lash out at people. They have the short tempers because they need their fix, man. They need their cigarette for the nicotine. Or they need their coffee for the caffeine. That's why they're, oh, don't talk to me before I have coffee. It's like, yeah, they're experiencing withdrawal. That's why they're so irritable and they feel like crap and they're in a bad mood and their head hurts, headaches. So that's actually caffeine withdrawals. Those people that wake up and need their coffee and otherwise they're a monster beforehand. Or those people that are, cigarettes are not that common anymore, but people that are addicted to nicotine and cigarettes, which is super easy. If they haven't had a cigarette in a while, they'll be really impatient, irritable. That's another one, impatient. They might be having a headache, and they'll be quick to say negative things or be snappy. And that's why. Same with cocaine. So these ones are addictive, and the withdrawals are particularly bad because you feel very negative. All right? You're not even able to experience the positive, and you feel extremely negative in general. So that's why these bad boys are addictive very quickly. You can be addicted to caffeine or amphetamines off of one exposure to them. Addicted, boom, immediately. These, while you become addicted quickly, it's not just like a one-time, you're addicted forever sort of thing. But they are also highly addictive for the same reason, because you feel like crap when you stop taking them. And also, you actually can feel stupider because your brain doesn't work as well. Like when you're on these, you can actually use them, yeah, the amphetamines are study drugs. Right? You can remember things better, recall them better, you can think more clearly, you can learn faster, you can perform physical things faster. So these are performance enhancers for sure, and they're almost all banned in physical or mental competitions. The bell's gonna ring. Remember the question over tomorrow, okay? We're picking up where we left off. We were on drugs. We did psychoactive, we talked about that, withdrawal, right? right? No?
Yeah.
Addiction, and why, and how psychoactive affects your mood and your perception. We talked about the difference between feeling and mood and emotion. You don't have to know the emotion yet, just as long as you understand the difference between a feeling and a mood and how moods can affect your perception. Okay, cool. So again, any questions about perception affecting, drugs affecting your perception, how that changes your behavior? Okay. So we were on the classifications for drugs, psychoactive drugs. We had depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogens. Okay. All right, those are my categories. I know this is review, but somebody tell me what depressants are, roughly speaking, but we can categorize them. They're not all exactly the same, but they have a general function that's similar.
They slow down your neural activity.
Okay, cool. Slow down neural activity. Nice. Stimulants?
Speed up your neural activity.
Speed up. What do you mean by that, by the way? I should have asked you, but what do you mean by that?
So it excites your neural activity and body functions. So
And what does that mean? Oh.
Because I guess it causes you to, how do I say this? Like it causes increased heartbeat and stuff because you're actually I don't know how to explain it.
It does increase your heartbeat. And who can explain speeding up neural activity or enhancing it or increasing it? Because we gotta actually know what that means.
So, like when you take a stimulant, it speeds up your neural activity, which in turn causes your body functions to be sped up. And then, like, you can see this, like, when people drink caffeine and they start talking, like, a lot faster.
Okay. So yes, that does happen. I talk faster, my heart rate increases, all of that. Well, but what do you mean by more neural activity? Like more of what?
So, I think it has to do with, like, neurotransmitters.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, more of them are being produced and sent through neurons.
Yeah, okay, so my neurons are actually communicating faster and more. They're more active. I have more energy available. I feel alert because I'm getting some of those neurotransmitters sent, like norepinephrine and all that, for a stimulant. So they fire quicker and faster, quicker and more frequency. And in the case of the various stimulant, like caffeine, for example, it doesn't give me more energy per se, but it makes it easier to use the energy. It somehow speeds up the process of converting the energy, which makes it seem like I have more because it's more efficient. All right, cool. Hallucinogens. So I'll give you the points for that, by the way, for a sec. And the first hand I actually saw was over there.
So they alter your perception, so you see, hear, feel things that aren't there earlier.
Yeah, exactly. These perception alterers. I mean, these alter your perception too, but not to the same degree as hallucinogens. This is where you see or hear or think things that aren't there or clearly aren't true, whether it's a hallucination or a delusion. Okay, cool. So affect perception, experience sensations that aren't there or true. All right, what's the difference between a hallucination and a delusion? I think I told you that yesterday.
So a hallucination is like when you see something, right, that isn't there, while
Okay.
delusion is when you perceive information like not correctly, I guess you could say. Because let's say that someone's walking behind you, you might be like, oh, they're following me because the government sent them after to kill me.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Which is almost certainly not the case. Absolutely. All right, cool. So, and that's part of psychological disorders, which we'll get into in Unit 8, I think, is when we talk about that, clinical psychology. But yeah, that's part of it. Like schizophrenics, for example, they experience sometimes hallucinations, but sometimes, and more often, they experience delusions where they think something that's clearly not true is true, like the government's out to get me, or so-and-so spying on me, or this person wants to kill me, or aliens abducted me, stuff like that, or they're trying to abduct me. Like that's a delusion where I'm interpreting information way differently than a normal person would. All right, and hallucination is, again, you're seeing, hearing, or feeling, or tasting, or smelling something that is not actually there. Okay? So, in the scenario, oh, by the way, I gave you points for that. That was a good explanation. Let's say I do take a hallucinogen, And trying to find your name here. There it is. And I am seeing spiders on the wall. And you guys are not, because you did not take the hallucinogen that I took, whatever it was. Am I getting different sensory information than you are? No. The same light rays are coming into my eyes as yours, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, I have a different angle, but presumably, I shouldn't be getting light rays that are telling me that there's a spider there because there isn't a spider there. All right? So where's the difference then? Because we're getting the same sensory info, same information's coming in. Where's the error?
The difference in perception, like how your brain like perceives the information that you're getting in.
Right, yeah, and my brain has added this to the sensory information that's coming in, even though it's not actually there, right? That's where the perception part screws up. How do I know I can see things that aren't there, by the way, even as a normal person? You do this every day, hopefully, if you're getting if you have a healthy circadian rhythm and you have healthy sleep. What's an example of me seeing, hearing, smelling, etc., things that aren't actually there? That my brain, it kind of proves that your brain can do this on its own. It doesn't need the sensory info to do it. You were actually first.
Dreams, right?
Yep, dreams. In a dream, I realize I can feel things, like they can affect my dreams. Like if someone touches me, I could feel it in my dream. But assuming I'm not talking about the stuff outside, can my brain by itself create an environment for me in my dream where I smell, touch, taste, see things?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So it can do that, and it does. You can perceive things that aren't there, which is why sometimes people are questioning what's real or not, because you could fool your own senses. I'm sure most of you remember the Descartes part that we did in AP World or Euro. What was his dilemma, his problem? Rene Descartes. He had like a dilemma, right? Because he didn't know what to believe.
Didn't he like lock himself in his room because he was like, oh well, if like how do I know if I'm real essentially?
He was trying to deduce his way down to a statement that was 100% true, and he can only come up with one. And what was that one? I'm gonna go with you.
Is it I think therefore I am?
Yeah, what does that mean?
It's like basically I am me because I know that I am me because I think that I am me.
Close. It has to do with thinking.
But nobody, I don't know anyone else's.
Go.
because I don't-
You're right, Sal.
Isn't it just because you can think it, then you have to automatically assume that you can see, that you can believe that you are real?
Okay, yes.
Because
I only know that I'm a conscious entity because I have my own independent thoughts. I'm not receiving them from somebody else. Everything else, though, could be some form of hallucination or distortion or deception, right? Could it be?
yes.
Yeah, like I think the example I gave you guys is like, how do you know you're not dreaming right now? And if you think about it, you're like, oh man, am I dreaming right now? Am I in class? Like there are ways you could figure out you're not dreaming. Like for example, the old Inception explanation. How did you get here? If you can remember how you got here and it goes back a long ways, like okay, this is at least this version of reality. But if you ever think, how did I get here? And you're like, oh man, how did I get here? Then you might actually be in a dream. But can my perception of sensory information be deceived?
Yes.
It definitely can, right? So that's what Descartes was worried about. Like, how do I know this is real? How do I know you're actually there? That my brain's not just projecting you and I'm talking to an empty classroom, right? Or you're sitting here in an empty classroom listening to a teacher who's not actually here with students around that are not actually there. Like, how do you actually know that? Your brain could be being deceived by another program, a dream, a hallucination of some sort through a drug, whatever. It could. It's a possibility. You don't know for sure. You think you know, but you're not 100% sure. The only thing you could know is that, yes, because I do have my own thoughts, I at least know I exist in some form. Even if this isn't reality, I do exist somewhere. This is probably reality, though, so you're all right. Okay,
Yeah.
probably. Okay, so we did stimulants. We talked about some examples, I think. Caffeine, nicotine, what else? Cocaine, amphetamines, right? There's lots of different types of amphetamines, different variations of the molecule. Methamphetamine's a really popular illegal one, especially here in the Valley. And that one's highly addictive, and that one really degenerates you quick. Oh man, I saw this picture of a girl who started taking meth at like 32, and she looked like a normal 32-year-old woman. And then like 2 years later, after meth, she looked like 57, like minimum, like had like craters in her face. Her hair had been lost. It was graying. Her skin looked old and weather beaten. It was like, whoa. She aged like 20 years in 2 years because of meth. Anyways, what are some of my withdrawal symptoms here of stimulants in general? They can vary in intensity, but in general, these things excite me, arouse me, make me feel good and happy and alert and energetic. So what do I feel when I'm experiencing withdrawal symptoms of these?
Feeling lethargic.
Okay, I can feel lethargic, perhaps. What else?
Headaches.
They could have headaches. That's a common one. That's no fun. What else?
Irritability.
Irritability, absolutely. Because I'm experiencing discomfort. Oops. Because I'm experiencing discomfort, I'm way more likely to be irritated by stuff you're doing because I'm already kind of in a bad mood or suffering in some way.
Fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue. Well, I can put that with lethargic, yeah. Because you're irritated and uncomfortable, you're generally far less patient, so you're impatient, and you're much more easily angered, all right? Okay, and that makes sense because I lack, after taking these, I lack the dopamine or norepinephrine or whatever neurotransmitters make me feel alert, awake, happy, and so I'm gonna feel like I'm devoid of those things. It's gonna feel quite miserable. I'll feel irritable, tired, unfocused, etc., and I'm gonna want to get these things back. All right, and that's why these can be particularly dangerous. And amphetamines, depending on the amphetamine, and cocaine can be addictive immediately after 1 or 2 uses. Nicotine and caffeine, as far as I know, take more than 1 use, but they are pretty addictive as well. And you guys all know that, the whole coffee thing. I don't wake up or don't talk to people about my coffee, that sort of stuff, because they're like this until they get their coffee. All right, hallucinogens. Oh wait, I didn't get you guys', who gave me an example for these? I know you, there's 2 more. Who gave me the 4th one? You? Okay, you're kind of like pointing to the side too. Usually you point there you go, that's pointing to the side. All right, boom, boom, boom. Hallucinogens. Some examples of these are, you guys are all like, I looked at my notes, I'm ready to say. No. THC is a really common one. And that was found in cannabis, marijuana, etc. All of those weed products, whether it's through the oil and vaping it, to smoking it, to eating it, to whatever it might be. That's the active ingredient that generally gives you the perception and experience that you get through it. What's my other one? LSD? Is that the other one? Okay. LSD. And I don't even know the names of them because they're different ones, but mushrooms generally are hallucinogens. You can either eat them and they're fine, or they're hallucinogens and they change your perception, or they kill you. So it's like a dice roll. If you see a mushroom, don't eat it, because there's a lot of ways it can go wrong. And at best, you'll just eat something that's mildly nutritious. At worst, you die. So make sure you know which mushrooms you're eating. And you can OD fairly easily on the psychedelic mushrooms, as far as I know, too. So wouldn't recommend it. But I don't know a whole lot about the specifics, but I guess hallucinogens have been banned for a long time. And recently they've been doing experiments on helping people out with various therapies, whether it's phobias, whether it's neurological disorders, like when they start losing their memory and stuff like that, and other things too. And for somehow these hallucinogens are able to help them out. They have these experiences that change their lives and make them not afraid of things or embrace things. So there's some cool stuff coming out, but it's what do you call an ascent? It's just developing. It's fresh. It's new. We don't know a whole lot about it or the long-term effects, but we might hear things about these over the next few decades, helping people out, being more used medically. But as for right now, we don't know a whole lot. All right, we do know a lot about THC though. So I can't talk too much about these, other than the fact that you can definitely OD on these things. And also, depending on how you are as a person, how vulnerable you are to negative emotion, you could also, when you take these, have what's called a bad trip and hallucinate very badly to the point that it's just terrifying. they make fun of these things on like Family Guy and stuff. If you guys have ever seen them at South Park as well. Bad trips. I've never had one, obviously, but bad trips can, they sound quite terrifying. You're essentially stuck in this world of hallucinations that are hurting or damaging or terrifying to you, and you're just stuck in them for, up to hours. So that doesn't sound fun to me. But anyways, yeah, you could potentially have what's called a bad trip, especially with the mushroom portion, and you could OD on it. So that's all we'll say about those. But THC, there's quite a bit we can say about this one. THC is super common, whether it's medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. It's pretty widespread, even if it's illegal in your state here in the U.S. and elsewhere. And this one can be beneficial. It can act as a painkiller in some sense. It can also help encourage appetite. So if you're lucky enough to be one of the people, or unlucky, I guess, it could make food actually taste better and help increase your appetite chemically and also just by enjoyment. So you've got, as a painkiller, it can function as an appetite enhancer. So that's good for people who are going through chemotherapy for cancer, because chemotherapy is basically, they inject you with a poison that would kill you if they gave you enough. It definitely makes you sick, makes you nauseous, because it's actual poison, so your body's trying to expel it. So you feel nauseous and sick and fatigued the whole time. But what it does is the chemotherapy only kills fast-growing cells. It doesn't kill regular, slow-growing cells in a right amount. So what that does is the only things that grow really fast on your body are your skin, nails, sorry, not skin, hair, nails, and cancer cells. So those three get killed, and the rest of you suffers but lives. So that's what it does. So if I'm nauseous and I'm experiencing pain, this can help me gain an appetite, which is difficult for chemotherapy patients because they're constantly nauseous and throwing up if they try to eat. And they're also in a state of pain and discomfort at the very least. So that can help with that. But yeah, if you guys are wondering why chemotherapy makes you feel that way, it only kills those fast-growing cells, which is why when people are on chemotherapy, they tend to lose their nails and their hair, and their cancer cells generally die, and that's the goal, while their other cells live. So that's what it does, and this is how that can help. It can also help reduce anxiety. And I'm going to put in parentheses by all these can, because it depends on how your body responds to it, and also potentially which version of narcotic you're using here. Some people it doesn't though, and here's the risk you run. Some people it doesn't necessarily help with pain or appetite, which doesn't really matter, but with some people, instead of reducing anxiety, it can actually make it worse. All right, and here's where the hallucination part comes into it. What this does is it can change your perception. And what often happens for people who are anxious, if it doesn't help their anxiety, which it can make them more loose and relaxed and enjoyable. Or, depending on their brain, it can make them more paranoid. So this is kind of like a delusion in that you'll take information that's normally innocuous or harmless, and to you, you'll perceive it as something that is potentially dangerous or threatening or critical. All right? So you could think people are, if they're being normal to you, you can think that if you're on this, that they're being mean to you, or they're questioning you, or they're not, what's the word I'm looking for, loyal to you, whatever it might be, and it'll make you more anxious about talking or interacting with them, and it could cause you to seclude yourself and make your anxiety worse. So it alters your perception, which could make you more anxious or suffer from delusions. And that's kind of why it's categorized as a hallucinogen, because it alters your perception regarding taste and experience with the nausea, and it can also cause you to suffer from mild delusions, where again you're taking everyday info and you're interpreting it incorrectly, more negatively usually, and that would of course make your anxiety worse. All right, so it really depends on you and how your body responds to it. as far as how your neurons are wired and how many receptors you have and how you think and all of that. So it's a variable. Could help you, could hurt you. You don't know, obviously, until you end up experiencing it. So, I think I told you this before. Why is it a horrible idea to use this stuff before you are in your mid-20s, at least?
Because before the age of like 25, your brain hasn't fully developed yet. So when you take this stuff, it can possibly kill or like stop producing brain cells in the brain.
Okay, it doesn't necessarily stop producing brain cells, but yeah, what it does is it impairs your development. And this isn't just a theory, by the way. They absolutely know this. It is very clear that if you use this stuff regularly before your brain's developed by your mid to late 20s, it will actually impair your brain development. I don't mean like just change it. I mean make it worse. Your memory will be worse. Your IQ will be worse. Your inhibition control will be worse. All the stuff you want in your frontal lobe will be a degree worse depending on how much you use it and all of that. All right. So we do know it can definitely damage cognition and memory. So cognition is like all my thinking faculties. If I'm talking about the frontal lobe, I'm talking about cognition. It's my thinking. What should I do? How should I plan for this? How can I how should I overcome this obstacle? Should I do this or not? Impulse control, that kind of stuff is cognition. Should I or shouldn't I do that? Is it a good idea to do this now or later? That kind of stuff. That's cognition. All right, and it can damage your cognition and memory before brain completes development. And it's not a question of it might, it will. So if you plan on being a pothead later in life and you want to, it's legal in a lot of states. You could, I guess. I would certainly, though, at the very least, if you plan on doing it, save it till your brain's done developing. So you can at least be 100% you before you start doing that. But anyways, yeah, so again, it is increasingly legal. It's legal here and in other states too, but try to stay away from that temptation at least till your brain's done developing. All right, that's a personal choice of yours when you guys get out of high school. Okay, any questions about THC and how it can negatively affect you? We good on that one? Okay, so those are the two easier ones, I think, anyway. And ecstasy, by the way, is a mix of these two. So you can experience hallucinations, but it's also a stimulant. This one is the rave drug. And the reason why it's the rave drug is you will perceive information differently. So if I go to an EDM sort of thing, and there's a lot of lights and sounds, it will make me experience them differently, usually enjoyably, I'm assuming, at these events. But it also speeds up your neural activity. So you are more prone to becoming dehydrated or overheating while you're on it. So we do have people that have heat stroke, could potentially die of overuse because their system is overly stimulated. Like I said, to the point that it becomes dehydrated really quickly as they're overheating. Because obviously, if you're getting hot, your body, how does it cool down? You sweat to try to, of course, lose some energy in contact with the evaporation in the wind. So if you're constantly active and you're sweating constantly, you will dehydrate yourself and you could pass out or die or develop complications from that. But I'm not going to pretend like it's common for people to die from using this, but that is a possible detriment to your health. But people take it at those because it makes them also, this is the hallucinogen part as well, along with the experiencing the lights and sound differently, it also makes people a lot more friendly for some reason. So people enjoy talking to, and even physical contact, just like, hand on the arm sort of thing. They, for whatever reason, are more likely to do those things, and they enjoy them more while they're under the influence of this narcotic. All right, but we don't have a lot of info on how it affects you over the long term, but pretty much all of these long-term use is bad in that it affects your brain chemistry. You can become addicted, or it would affect your brain development and damage you, or your organs, like your liver, which is what breaks this stuff down, the toxins in your body. It can damage those things over long term, pretty much all of them. All right, so just know that. These things can be great if used medically or correctly, if it's legal and all of that, but almost all these long-term use does have negative effects, like I said, liver or kidneys. Those are the things that filter stuff out of your bloodstream like this. It can damage them long-term use, and then you die much earlier. Or you can affect your neurochemistry, you become addicted, or it can affect your brain development, and it could worsen your memory or cognition. So I wouldn't recommend, even if this stuff is legal, using it chronically over a long time unless it's medically necessary. Like you're going through chemotherapy, and that's the only way you can not throw up and you can eat. That's obviously a good time to use it. Any questions about ecstasy? All right, cool. So let me just put this down here. Stimulant, so it increases your activity, but then of course you're prone to overheating, dehydration, and it does enhance sensory perception. So those lights and sounds of raves and whatnot, where this is popular, become more novel and appealing and enjoyable, and also for whatever makes people more friendly. Which is why there are almost no fights at raves, but at other concerts there are. Okay. Any questions about stimulants or hallucinogens? Yes. Yeah, you can. All right, depressants. I say this for last because it is the most nuanced, difficult. What was that? Depressing, yeah.
No, I just got on the Great Depression.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's 3 subcategories. All right, this is where people get confused. So these obviously are generalized activities or developments with these drugs, like altering perception, speeding up neural activity, slowing down. So all 3 of these, I'm experiencing what? What's happening with all 3 of these categories that I haven't put up there yet? Actually, I'll put them up there. Hold on. Alcohol, opiates, and barbiturates. What's going to be common among all 3 of these? Because they all do different things, but there is one commonality among them.
They reduce neural activity and
Right.
they slow down your motor function.
Yeah, exactly. They slow down all of your neural activity, which of course is going to slow down your motor functions, your reaction time. Everything's going to be slowed down during this. Okay. Alcohol. We know what alcohol is. That is, of course, you can get it from multiple types of foods by fermenting it. I'll save that for last just because we know the most about it. Opiates, painkillers. Examples would be codeine. I'm going to spell these wrong, I think. Codeine. I know that's not how you spell it. Heroin. Vicodin. That's another one. Oxycodone. These are all different molecule forms, but they all perform the same function. And most of them, which is where the name comes from the opium seed / plant or poppy seed. All right, those are the. They discovered this. I don't know when they discovered it, but it became popular in the 1800s when the British found them in the Middle East and Afghanistan and started selling them across the world because they were so addictive. What were you gonna say?
I said no, I'm Afghan. That's like what we're known for.
Yeah.
Having opioids.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the British in the 19th century. But yeah, they discovered them. Anyways, these are highly addictive. Why do you think these might be highly addictive? Like withdrawals are particularly devastating when I'm trying to readjust my neurochemistry.
Because they provide a rush of endorphins.
Mhm.
So when you have that excess, your brain kind of like slows down and shuts off its production of endorphins, like
Yes.
naturally. So when you're not on the drugs, you feel like you're not getting the endorphin production that you normally would. So you're like more discomfort, like you experience more discomfort.
Yep.
And, like,
Any discomfort or pain that I would normally be feeling that my natural endorphins take care of. Because you'd be surprised, by the way, how many parts of you are aching, but you don't know it because your endorphins are active. All those parts are going to ache to the max without your endorphins going. Also, too, endorphins actually make you feel good, too. They give you kind of a warm, floaty feeling. It's called a runner's high. If you go out and do some sort of activity for a long time that is intense, like running or something like that, you'll actually feel really good for a while. You almost feel like you have more energy, and you're not going to ache. Anything that you hurt when you're playing your sport will only hurt mildly, if at all. And then later on, you'll feel a lot more lethargic, uncomfortable because the endorphins have worn off. So now the injury you had that barely hurt or didn't hurt, now it aches, and you won't feel as good. So they lose when they become neurochemically dependent, right? Their body stops producing endorphins because like, we're good, we got plenty, look. And then it's actually cocaine or sorry, not cocaine, codeine or heroin or Vicodin or whatever it is, whatever opiate. Your brain thinks that it has it, stops making endorphins. So when you get off this drug, you lose the high you were in, your euphoric, warm, floaty feeling, and you now feel all pains, and you don't have that good feeling to go with it. You feel terrible. So you're uncomfortable, possibly in pain, and you are greatly desiring to go back to at least normal, but probably high up on your cloud on these opiates. All right, or opioids. So withdrawals are intense, more so than the other two. So as far as depressants go, this is the worst one to be addicted to because the withdrawal is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Intense, painful, uncomfortable, debilitating, along with perhaps the dependence on some of the more intense stimulants. Those are the worst ones to be addicted to. Okay. What was I going to say about these? Oh, I don't think I've told you, I don't think it's in the notes, but you're never supposed to mix any of these three together. Like it always says that if you're taking these for like, let's say you had a surgery and the doctor actually prescribes you Vicodin or oxycodone or codeine or whatever, legally, right, to deal with the very intense pain you have while you're recovering for surgery for a couple weeks or whatever, it's gonna tell you not to mix with alcohol and not to mix with tranquilizers, which are barbiturates, by the way. Why would it tell me not to? Why would that potentially, because it does, it could kill you, and it often does. People do this on accident all the time.
Is it because, so they all slow down your, like, function, so if you use two at the same time, they'll slow it down to the point where they, like, almost stop, and then you, like, die?
Yeah, exactly. You won't actually have enough neural activity or enough physiological activity with your heartbeat and your blood pumping and all that to the point that you'll actually die of either oxygen deprivation or some sort of lack of neural activity. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they can be deadly. People do this all the time on accident because sleeping pills, I'm not sure if you qualify that as a barbiturate or not, but sleeping pills also depress your system. So sometimes people will drink and then they'll take sleeping pills to go to bed and then they never wake up because the combination of the two slowed them down so much that they ended up dying in their sleep by doing that. It's a common way that females try to commit suicide too. Men are much more likely to just shoot or hang themselves. But women, for whatever reason, are more likely to try poisoning themselves, and that's a common way they do it. And a lot of times it doesn't work for them, fortunately. But the gun and the hanging generally do, so men are more successful with their suicide attempts, which we'll talk about later when we talk about aggression and violence and antisocial behavior. So I didn't just randomly throw that out there. We actually talk about that in this class. But that's a common one that they try to do it with. Yeah, I'm not sure where sleeping pills would be categorized. I'm sure it depends on the sleeping pill too, but I'm guessing it'd be under a barbiturate, but I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure. If somebody actually could look that up real quick, that'd be wonderful, how it's classified. All right, barbiturates. These are tranquilizers. I always forget the names of these ones. Anatol is one of them. Oh, there's another one, starts with B. Maybe it was N, actually. Nembutal, yeah. These ones are much less known, less popular, because you don't often use tranquilizers, but these are obviously used to disable, potentially, a large animal, and that does that by, like you see in like Jurassic Park and big movies like that, or like at zoos. They'll tranquilize them with some form of barbiturate, and that just slows down their neural system so much that all they can do is kind of like lay down and rest. They can't even move necessarily because their neural functioning is slowed down so much that they don't have the energy or ability to like turn around and bite you because they're just so relaxed and slowed down in this tranquil state. Obviously, these are very dangerous because if you give someone too much, they just die. Like it just stops everything and you die. So there's a very fine mix. They might actually qualify, I'm not sure the category in this one either. Damn, what do they call it when you are out for surgery?
Anesthesia.
Anesthesia, thank you. That might qualify as a barbiturate as well. If somebody could look that one up too, that'd be wonderful. Oh yeah, sleeping pills are what?
Barbiturate.
Okay, yeah, they are. I thought they were. I had no evidence for that, though. I just guessed because I was assuming that's what they do, so they're probably barbiturates. So now I know they actually are. Sweet. I would imagine also that, damn, I just asked you guys what it's called. Anesthesia, yeah. Anesthesia would probably also qualify, and that also is a very dangerous mixture, because if they do it wrong, you just don't wake up. It is also barbiturate. Sweet, yes, anesthesia. So these all slow you down to the point that you can't feel or can't move or can't breathe, at least normally. And then if you get too much, you just can't do those things at all, and you end up dying, right? And that's why if you guys ever have a surgery, the anesthesiologist is actually a separate professional. It's not just like a doctor hooks you up and you go to sleep. They like track. They hook you up to the machine that they have to see your heart rate and all of that. And they know your weight, body weight and all that, your body mass. And they very slowly creep it in to get to a fine line where you're unconscious and not feeling things, but also still alive. Because if they don't do it enough, you feel things and you move, and that screws up the surgery and also makes you suffer. And then if they go do too much, you die. So it's very difficult to do. And that's why they do not like to do it with infants and babies, because they're so small that a change in the amount can end up killing them quite easily. So they always try to avoid anesthesia for young kids as much as possible. When you're bigger, it's better because there's a little more room for error as far as if they give you too much or too little. But for infants, man, you don't know, and if you give them too much and they're only a few pounds, that's just it for them, unfortunately. All right, so those are barbiturates, and that's why you don't want to mix them with the other things. Okay, and alcohol and yeah, these are addictive as well. Oh, also, a lot of anti-anxiety meds are forms of barbiturates because they help you relax. Literally, they slow down all of your system, so that stuff that was stressing you out, it just doesn't matter as much because your body is in a relaxed state, and it can't even be anxious, because anxiety is when all of your stress responses are on. So your heart rate's up, your blood pressure's up, your breathing's up because your body thinks you're in a fight or flight situation. So some of these can cure the symptoms for anxiety by relaxing you, and then the whatever it is that you're worried about doesn't bother you as much. But again, does that fix your anxiety? No, it's just treating the symptom. The source of your anxiety is still there. You're still worried about whatever it is, but it's not affecting you physically like it would. So it's much better, obviously, just to take your anxiety and deal with that, and then the whole thing goes away, rather than just numb yourself. Okay, last one, alcohol. Man, my throat's going dry. Alcohol. This one's very popular because it's legal. But why do people, I think I told you this yesterday, maybe I didn't though. Why do people become addicted to alcohol? What benefit does it have? Aside from if my body happens to receive it well, like as far as my reward system, and I get like a dopamine experience from it. Obviously, if I feel good by drinking alcohol, I'm gonna like to do it. But besides those people, because they're not the only ones that get addicted to alcohol, become alcoholics, why might this actually cause me to become dependent upon it, even if I don't get that positive response?
Because like if you're going through a hard time, it makes you forget it for like a little bit. Like once you're off it, it makes you feel it even harder, so you want more, so you like forget about.
Very close. The only thing that was really wrong about that was you don't forget it, actually.
You don't care.
You just don't care. Exactly. It just doesn't, for whatever reason, it just doesn't bother you. Every time somebody's drunk, like let's say like drunk drivers, for example, they pull them over, cop knows that they're drunk, they take them to the station, sure enough, blood alcohol's way over and they shouldn't be driving. If you ask them, you know, if they know they're drunk, they almost always do know they're drunk. Do you think they know that it's legal to do that? Yes, they do, to drive. Do you think they know the consequences for being caught, getting a DUI, like losing your license and paying a fine and all that stuff? They do. They're fully aware of what they're doing wrong, what the consequences are, but
They don't care.
they just don't care, right? It just doesn't bother them. They're just like, whatever. It just, for whatever reason, even though they're fully aware of it, they don't care. So what we would call that is impaired judgment, all right? So you know the consequences, but your judgment's poor. It's just like, oh, well, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You're not actually assessing the situation well there. So the odds that if you decide to drunk drive when you're drunk are actually higher, because you know you're drunk and you shouldn't, but you just don't care. So it's a good idea not to get there. That's why you have designated drivers. If you guys when you're older, go out and go to an event where they're drinking, you want to have the designated driver because who just doesn't drink at all, because the likelihood that if they do drink, that they're going to drink while drunk anyway is way too high. That's why you have a designated driver, or you take the keys away from the person that is too drunk to make the decision on their own, because they're likely to do it anyway because they don't care. All right, cool. So, still have cognition. And what I mean by that is they can still think about things. They understand them. They don't forget them necessarily. They are just numbed to or don't care about them. All right, I give you the example of the Soviet Union had, and still does actually, but it was even worse during the Cold War. Their consumption of vodka was insanely high, super high, and it wasn't because they loved the taste of vodka. Why was it that the people in the communist Soviet Union were so heavily dependent on alcoholism?
Their general circumstances were just so poor, like under communism, they were starving, they were cold, and they were living poorly, so they had to turn to something to
Yeah, exactly. Their lives sucked. They were in Russia, which can be just kind of sucky already just because it's so cold, but all right, let's say that they don't care about that as much. In the communist Soviet Union, they were so deprived of necessities and individual choice and controlled and had such terrible lives and worked so much and were told what to do and couldn't do certain things and there would be punishments for them. They would just drink those worries away. Did they forget about them? No, but what happened? They didn't care about them, right? So if you got any stress or anxiety, alcohol can be a wonderful way to not forget about it, but no longer care about it. So people that experience things like unemployment, they get fired, they get a divorce or lose a loved one or whatever, they could succumb to alcoholism, not because they forget or it makes them feel good, but it makes them not care about the thing that's negatively affecting their life, all right? So that's what it does. And that's why it can be so addictive. Okay. Yes, and you can become dependent on it because psychologically, because they don't want to experience that pain, so they keep drinking. But also, when you do drink so much, you do develop a neurochemically, you also become neurochemically addicted to it as well. So even just to feel normal, you have to be a certain degree of inebriated or drunk, however you want to phrase it, to even operate normally. Otherwise, you'll be experiencing some form of withdrawal, discomfort, and anxiety. All right. So that's a bad. It's a, how do I phrase this? It can be detrimental to your life, negative to your life, impacted negatively, because it clouds your judgment, obviously. If you don't care about consequences, you're more likely to do stupid things. All right, that's why rape occurs more frequently when people are inebriated. Why might that be? Do they know rape is wrong? Yes. They do, but what changes it? They don't care about the consequence, right? Or they think they won't get caught or something stupid like that. So judgment's impaired, so you're much more likely to do dangerous / illegal things. Or those drunk guys are like, yeah, I can do this, I can jump over this garbage can, and then they, don't, and then they run and jump and fall on their face and, break their jaw and all that stupid stuff. A lot of that is because their judgment is actually impaired by the alcohol. They know the consequences, they just, for whatever reason, think they can do it, and then they just can't. All right. Also, what's another one? For whatever reason, it makes people more friendly. Actually, no, wait, I do know the reason. Friendlier in general. Sometimes people can become more mean, though. I actually put that too. Friendlier or mean. This is because what would cause me generally from just being mean to you straight out?
There's consequences.
Yeah, there can be consequences, right? I can make you upset, you might want to retaliate, or even it just feels awkward to just rip on somebody, and especially if other people are seeing you do it, right? But why am I more likely to do that if I'm under the influence of alcohol? You don't care about the consequences, right? Same thing about being friendly, too. Some people are actually just naturally very friendly, but they're what you call introverted. So they get a lot of anxiety if they're talking to new people or attention is on them. So why are they all of a sudden more talkative when they drink alcohol? Because they don't care, right? That anxiety doesn't bother them, right? So that's kind of what it does. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's largely what's going on there with those developments. So it could make you friendlier or meaner, but the bad things are, of course, your judgment impairment, more likely to do dangerous, illegal things. And also, it does actually damage your I don't want to just say brain because that's so generic. It can damage permanently your memory, so your ability to form memories or recall them, and it can also impair your, it can reduce your IQ. It can actually kill brain neurons in your frontal lobe, which are responsible for your thinking functions. So your problem solving, your goal setting, any thinking process, even the memory part, can deteriorate over time because it does actually kill those brain cells. So it damages your memory and other cognitive faculties. Yeah.
Is that why when people get drugs, they like don't remember that?
That can, yeah, because it does, for whatever reason, impair their hippocampus, which is part of your memory storage functioning. And yes, so it can impair the memory in that moment, but I'm talking about like long-term too. Like if I drank heavily for 10 years, I am almost certainly going to be stupider because I have a reduced IQ because I've damaged certainly neurons in my frontal lobe, which are responsible for my cognitive abilities, judgment, etc. And my memory as well will also be impaired. And I mean permanently, as in those neurons are dead and I can't replace them. All right, so I can no longer remember things as well or store them as well or recall them as well, however you want to phrase it. But yeah, in the moment too, it does impair that as well. But I'm talking long term. Like you lose them forever, dude. You kill those brain cells, they're not coming back. All right. There is a degree of plasticity we talked about, you know, in certain hemisphere or certain lobes, but frontal lobe for the most part, you damage those, nothing can pick up the slack, so it's just gone. All right, and some of the memory-oriented ones as well. And also, organ damage over the long term. The most common one is liver damage. And if you're an alcoholic, you're much likely to die from liver failure way before, you know, your 70s or your 60s or whatever. I mean, there are people who have died from liver damage in their 30s and 40s from alcohol abuse. So it's pretty gnarly.
So what would be the result of mixing like a stimulant and a depressant?
Those can be used to counteract each other. All right, so how can I phrase this? Anybody ever seen that movie? What is it called? Denzel Washington. It's the one with the flight or something where he's got the plane and it's crashing and then he like lands it upside down or something. So he's super famous because he saved this whole. No one's seen this movie apparently. So he was really popular like 10 years ago, but you guys were little kids, so. It's a true story. Okay, I'm not sure the degree to which it's true, but the fact that this guy crazily landed this plane in a very unorthodox way because he had to was true. I'm not sure the backstory behind it, but anyways, in this movie, he's a pilot and he's a terrible person in general. He's an alcoholic, and he can't fly drunk because his judgment's impaired. You also, by the way, your reaction speed and your thinking is just slower because your neural activity is slowed, right? That's what it does. I forgot to put that, by the way. Slow reaction and thinking speed. He can't fly a plane drunk because he can't take in the information fast enough. He's more likely to drift off in thought and be over-relaxed. So he found a brilliant way to even himself out. So if my nervous system is slow, what can I do to make it normal again or pick it up? Take a stimulant, right. So this guy snorted cocaine. So he'd be super drunk, and then before he'd go on the flight, he'd snort cocaine, and then he'd be able to fly. And then he'd land and then keep doing the drug, the alcohol thing. So the reason why, at least in this movie, it was so controversial is like, wow, look, he did this crazy landing that he had to do. He had to like land it upside down or something like that for it to work because the way the engine or the wing was damaged, you couldn't do it normally. So it was kind of a miracle and really good pilotship on his part. But then they, of course, did a blood alcohol test and they saw like, wow, he was high on cocaine and super over on the blood alcohol content and maybe some other things too. So it wasn't as simple as you're a hero. It was like, did you cause this? Because you're on all these things? You're certainly not supposed to be on all these things. But anyways, yeah, so some people do that. They try to use stimulants to counteract, a depressant that they're on or vice versa, but that can be tricky and dangerous because mixing in these things can have consequences you're not aware of, whether it's overstimulation, understimulation, organ damage, whatever it might be. But yeah, generally speaking, some people can try to do that. Any questions about those and alcohol? So for alcohol, you're going to want to know why people become addicted to it, because it reduces anxiety by essentially making them not care about consequences or negative experiences, but also the damage that it causes. It kills brain cells, so you lose permanently memory and cognitive functioning, but it can also damage your organs, like your liver, for example, over time, and it impairs your, it reduces your reaction speed, which can be very dangerous if you're driving. Some guy pulls out in front of you and you hit the brakes or swerve and you're normal, great. You're on alcohol though, you're gonna react slower, you're just gonna hit him, right? Or you're gonna see that red light go too late because your reaction speed's slow, and then you blow the stop sign or you blow the red light, and then you just T-bone somebody and kill you or them, which is why that happens so often, by the way. They just react too slowly to the light signal, and then they just end up going through a red light and hitting people. Anyways, you guys got that? So we understand these 3 mini categories of depressants and why they're addictive and dangerous and what they do. Good, take a break.